Hi, welcome to Talking Points. This is a show that focuses on issues that are of vital interest to the state of Oregon. I'm your host, Angie Christensen. Today we're interviewing Dave and Carrie Dotterrer. Dave is a candidate for Oregon State Senate, District Number 3. That encompasses Ashland, Talent, Phoenix, Jacksonville, and most of Medford. Welcome, Dave and Carrie.
Nice to be here.
It's a pleasure to have both of you.
Thank you.
So you're running for Oregon State Senate. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I grew up in Eugene.
Okay.
And I went off to Oregon State in the late 60s and was in ROTC. I got my degree in business administration with a concentration in accounting. So I have a financial fiscal background. And while I was there, like I say, I was in ROTC, and I decided I wanted to join the Marine Corps. Okay. And I took the Marine option and went into the Marine Corps in 1973. I spent almost 30 years in the Marine Corps, retired as a colonel in 2000, and during that time I had the opportunity to gain 2 master's degrees, one in military history, and then I also had a master's degree in national security policy and strategy from the Naval War College. Later in my career, toward the end of my career, I served in the Pentagon, where I worked on strategic issues, matching strategy, policy, and resource requirements. And I also had the opportunity to be the executive assistant to the Secretary of the Navy, where I really got a first-hand view of how things really operate at the top of a big organization, and the relationship between the legislative branch and the executive branch, and how large organizations, particularly large bureaucracies, function. When I came back, I retired, like I say, in 2000, and I've always wanted to come back to Oregon. Although we'd served, the 2 of us had lived all around the world, there was no doubt in our mind we were coming back to Oregon, both of us, and it was really important. And so when we came back, we decided that to live in Ashland, and since then I've done numerous things. I've been worked a little bit as a consultant with the Department of Defense. I've been on the Ashland Planning Commission. I've been the chair of the Jackson County Veterans Advisory Committee, because veterans issues are extremely important to me. And I've also worked with the Young Marines, been on the National Board of the Young Marines program.
Dave, that is so impressive. I'm very impressed with that. Now let's shift our focus to Carrie. Carrie, how many years have you and Dave been married?
Dave and I are going to celebrate our 37th anniversary in September.
My goodness, congratulations.
Thanks.
That is outstanding.
Thanks.
Very nice. Now, I understand that you're a local girl, that you grew up here in Ashland. Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, Ashland was a wonderful little town. Had a population of 14,000 when my parents moved here in 1958.
Okay.
We lived here for 12 years, so I am a graduate of Ashland High School.
Oh, you're a Grizzly.
I am.
Are you a Mama Grizzly?
And my dad, whose name is Pierre Roberts, was the vice principal, the dean of boys, and the football coach at the Ashland Middle School, but back then it was called the Ashland Junior High School.
Okay.
And my mom, whose name is Mill Roberts, was a stay-at-home mom, and she was the ultimate volunteer, and she raised 8 kids.
My goodness.
And our family was a combined family, and we just happened to have 6 kids in 2 grade levels. So whenever the Roberts family came to any event, it was always a bunch of crazy kids. But
Sounds like fun.
It was, and
Yeah.
I've always loved Ashland, and when Dave wanted to retire, there's just no doubt in my mind that I wanted to come back to Ashland.
So your roots go very deep in Oregon, and it sounds like you have a deep affection, and you care deeply about the state. I think that's very important for what you're doing now, Dave. That gives you a good background. Now tell me how you think your experience lends itself to becoming a state senator.
Well, when I was on active duty in the Marine Corps, I spent most of my career looking at strategic and policy issues, the big picture issues. And what I worked on was looking at what it is that the organization needs to accomplish, what its requirements are, and what are the goals and strategies that you need to do to get to that. And I think that's extremely important. And my sense for the state of Oregon is that the state needs to take a hard look and ask itself, well, what is it? Why do we have a state government? What are the most important goals and requirements of that state government, and what are the priorities? And that should be driving how we determine our budget, and because those are extremely important. And you know, sometimes we do a lot of that. Did a lot of that in the military, and I'm not going to say that the military always got it right. I saw the military do some things wrong and make some mistakes along the way, and I would hope that I learned from those, and I can see what we need to do. But I've spent some time looking at the budget and spent a lot of time looking at where Oregon is going. And if you really look at, for example, the governor's task force, the reset cabinet that he put together, that's an impressive document in the sense that that's a very comprehensive overall strategic look at where do we really need to go. My critique of that and criticism of that document is that it's quite frankly awful late in the process. And so, and I think we should have the questions that were asked in that document and addressed, and we should have been doing that a long time ago. If you make that part of your planning process for a state, and that's important. So
it's important to plan.
Exactly. And it's also very important for you to look at where it is what are your requirements? Why do you have a state government? What do we want to do here? What are our priorities?
Very good. So Dave, then in view of what you just said, what do you see as the most important issues facing Oregon today?
Well, the two biggest issues are jobs and also and fiscal responsibility. Now, when I take a look at the jobs issue, and that's a fairly common answer for lots of people, that they say, well, we need to take a hard look at jobs. But what I like to do, or what I do, is I tie that in with economic development and the economy.
Okay.
And it's the private economy. What's vitally important is that we have a vibrant, growing, and economy for the 21st century that provides those living wage jobs, the family wage jobs that we really vitally need. And what I'm seeing too much of is discussions about, well, how is the government going to create these jobs? Well, that's the better answer is, rather than spending tax money to create these jobs, to me the better answer is to find a way for the private sector to create those jobs. And secondly, the issue for the second issue is the fiscal responsibility. I think it's clear to me that the state of Oregon needs to get its budget house in order. All you need to do is look at what's happening right now is we're making these changes, and we're having various organizations and political school boards and various state agencies are having to make cuts. And because I believe that if everything had been planned out properly in advance, you wouldn't have to make these cuts. And I can tell you, as somebody who one thing I didn't mention is talking about what I had done when I was on active duty. I commanded a Marine unit of about 1,300 Marines.
Wow,
I had almost a $50 million a year budget, and so I know what it's like to have a budget that gets changed in the middle of your of the execution of that budget. And you make all these plans, and you think you've got things set out, and then halfway through your budget, somebody comes in and tells you, well, you have to cut 5% or 10%. And that's a highly inefficient way of doing business.
Right.
I understand that happens sometimes. There are these crises that come along, but I just believe we can do a much better job of that.
So how big is the budget for Oregon? How many dollars are we looking at?
Well, we're looking at a total spending in the current budget of approximately $60 billion.
Wow.
And it costs a lot of money to run the state of Oregon,
Yes, it does.
and that's funding from all sources. Not all that is tax money. A lot of that comes from the federal government, but again, it is a large budget.
It's a large budget.
Very
Yes,
large
it
budget,
is.
yeah.
So, Dave, Oregon's unemployment rate is really one of the highest in the nation. How did we get here? Why do we have those high figures?
Well, it's interesting that put it that way because if you really look at the Oregon unemployment rate, it's approximately 10% higher than the rest of the nation.
That high, 10%.
And Jackson County is almost 25% higher than the rest of the nation. We have a high unemployment rate. And we got here, I believe, because the state of Oregon is not as business friendly as it should be. I believe that what we really need to do is we need to encourage private industry and to grow and to we need those entrepreneurs. We need those small businesses. We need to allow this economy to breathe, and it's an economic issue. And when you talk to business people, what they'll tell you is that sometimes several of them have said to me, "Well, I'm not even sure that Oregon really wants me to succeed here." They get this sense that based on the taxes that they have to pay and that the regulatory burdens that they face. Those are the things that keep people from innovating.
Right.
And as one businessman said to me the other day, it would really be nice if sometimes the state would just get off my back and allow me to do what I need to do.
Right.
Now, I'm not. And when he made that statement, he wasn't talking about, look, no regulation or any of those things that we sometimes think about. What you can really see was what he was talking about was, we need regulation that puts out the ground rules and sets the stage. But when you start to get into burdensome regulation, and I think what we need to do is just step back, take a look at it, sit down, and as I've been asking several of the people in business, the common question is, what does the state need to do to enhance or improve business opportunities in the state? I like to start with a different way, and I start by asking, what does the state need to stop doing? Because there are some things, first do no harm. And there are some things that we can do. And when you ask the question that way, what you do is you look at the regulations or the rules or the taxes that are in place, and then you ask yourself, well, is there a way to achieve what those regulations are meant to do, to raise the money, for example, with taxes, but at the same time make it less burdensome on business and mitigate? Is basically what you would do. So
is this how we would put people back to work then?
Yeah, well, see, because
that's all part of
that because the jobs come
that's bottom
from the
line.
private.
Yes.
Yes, the jobs come from the private sector.
Right.
That's what we need to do. We have increased the number of public employees in this state over the last few years, even while our unemployment rate was going up. Well, you can't possibly make up for the difference of the tens of thousands of jobs that have been lost in the private sector. You just can't afford to do that. So.